So, number 22. The first 5 terms in a number sequence are shown below. 2, 4, 6, 10, and 16. The rule for the sequence is shown in the box below. After the first 2 numbers, each number is the sum of the 2 previous numbers. What is the 8th term of the sequence? So, the first term in the sequence is 2, the second term is 4, third term 6, you get the idea. And after the first 2 numbers, each number is the sum of the 2 previous numbers. So after these 2, the next term is going to be the sum of 2 and 4, right? The 2 previous numbers. The next term, that 10, is going to be the sum of 4 and 6, right? This 16 is the sum of 6 and 10. 10 plus 16, and the next term would be 26. And actually, I've done it all out for you, right? Right about here. So, here's the first term, second term, third term, and then from there, the 5th term would be 6 plus 10, which is 16. The 6th term would be 10 plus 16, 7th, 16 plus 26, which is 42. And the 8th term is 26 plus 42. Now, if you've done all that correctly, you should come up with the answer 68, which is choice D. And if you circled that, you'd have the right answer. So, let's circle that. Alright. Next problem. In the diagram below, lines K, M, and N are parallel lines intersected by line P. Line P is not perpendicular to lines K, M, and N. Which of the following angles has a measure that is not equal to the measure of angle 1? So this line P is not perpendicular to K, M, and N. And remember, perpendicular means they meet at a 90-degree angle. If they were perpendicular, then all these angles would be equal. All of them would equal 90 degrees, and we wouldn't have a problem. But you have to recall the rules for angles or angle relationships. So, all vertical angles are always congruent. That means all angles that meet in an intersection, the opposite angles are always going to be equal, right? 1 is always going to equal 2, no matter how you move that line P. And for all parallel lines cut by a transversal, this P, this line P, is called a transversal. You don't need this, alternate interior angles, don't need that. You need this. Corresponding angles are congruent, right? So corresponding angles, which ones are those? Well, 1 corresponds to angle 3. 3 corresponds to angle 5. And the way I like to think of it is that if I cut out one set of angles and laid them on top of the other, what would happen in the same place? By that I mean, if I can actually do it here now, if I cut this out, right, and laid it on top, that means where the 3 was, the 1 is. 1 and 3 actually happen in the same place. The same with angle 1 and angle 5. They're corresponding angles, or they happen in the same place, right? So I'll circle all the if I get a pencil. 1 and 3 are corresponding, and 5 are corresponding. These are all congruent to one another. And angle 2, since it's a vertical angle to angle 1, is also equal or congruent. The only angle that's not equal is this angle 4. Actually, angle 3 and angle 4, since they come together and form a straight line, are supplementary, or they add up to 180 degrees. So your choice here would be C, angle 4. And let's move on to the next problem. Next problem would be 24 and 25. So number 24, this is an interesting one. A magazine had 4,000 subscribers at the end of the year 2004. The number of subscribers increased 10% each year as compared with the previous years. Which of the following is the closest to the number of subscribers at the end of the year 2007? So, at the end of the year 2004, there were 4,000 subscribers, right? Then, at the end of the year 2005, there's 4,000 plus 10% of 4,000. So, the key here is to be able to find 10% of 4,000. And to do that, you have to convert 10% into a fraction or a decimal. The easiest for me is to convert this into a decimal. So, remember, to convert a percent to a decimal, you drop this percent sign, take the decimal that's in front of the 10 and move it 2 spaces to the left, and that should become 0.10, right, or 0.10. You can drop this 0 because it's the same thing. And once you do that, you can figuring out this problem is pretty easy. So, the end of the year 2005, you have 4,000, the original amount of subscribers, plus 10% of 4,000, or 0.1 times 4,000, right? When you take 0.1 times 4,000, you're going to come up with 400, and 4,000 plus 400 is 4,400. But at the end of the year 2006, you're going to use this new value now, the value at the end of 2005, plug it in as your original value, right? And then you're going to add 10% of 4,400. This is what compounding interest is. You can actually use a compound interest formula, but I like to do it this way better, so you get a better visual idea of what's happening. So, in the beginning of the year 2007, they start with 4,840 plus 10% of 4,840. So when you take that 0.1 times it by 4,840, you come up with 484. When you add these two together, you come up with 5,324. And out of your multiple choice questions, or multiple choice answers, you're asked to pick the closest, and the closest to 5,324 is 5,320. So if you pick choice D there, you'd be right. On to number 25. Which of the following is equivalent to the expression below for all real values of n and k? What they're testing you on here is the rules of exponents. Do you know how to multiply exponents with the same bases? And if you recall, when you have exponents with the same bases, right, this number is the same as this number, raised to a power, and then you multiply those two things, right? You take the product, that's why it's called the product rule. You actually just add the exponents. So x to the 5th times x to the 3rd is going to equal x to the 5 plus 3, or x to the 8th. The power rule is when you have a power raised to a power, you multiply the exponents, right? So I have x to the 3rd, and that entire thing is raised to the 4th power. When I raise a power to a power, I multiply the two exponents. So that becomes x to the 12th here. So here, I'm not going to use the power rule, I'm going to use the product rule, right? The bases are the same, 5 is the same as 5, and it is the product because that little dot means multiply, and I just add the n and the k together. The choice that adds the n and the k together is this one right here. So, hope that helps.